I think we're live. I think we're going live. Looks like we have an excellent connection. We have 8 concurrent viewers. Welcome. Hello. How's it going? Let's see. Let's see if I can do some trickery here. Alright. Cool. No, I can't do that. Oh well. Alright. Let me load up a logic thing. Who's here? Sound off. 9 concurrent viewers. Can y'all hear me? Sound coming through okay? Gonna get some status updates? Alright, where can I pull up? Hello. Hello, yo, it's Crow. Hello, Lily Rubin. Hello, Dirk Wentz. Hello, Veronica Serrano. Rory Lalonde. Sarah of the Ethereal. Welcome. Okay, all those popped in just now. Thank you. Awesome. Alright. Where the fuck is Logic? Why you taking... Oh, man. Wait, how long have I been streaming? Only 2 minutes. Oh, man, I already got demonetized. Damn. Oh, man. Alright. Who cares? I'm talking about music theory. If I say anything worth watching, I'll clip it. That's why I don't ever have clips. I'm never doing something worth fucking saving. Okay. Alright. Oh, I just want to make sure this doesn't, like, break the audio when I load it. Oh. I'm big and phasey again. Hang on. I don't really need... I'm not gonna really use talkback tracks as much as I used to, because I realize, like, as much as it saves me, like, having to articulate and, like, go up to a mic directly to talk and, like, fuck with audio and shit, it just makes my streams sound dumb when I'm just trying to talk, so I'm not gonna do that anymore. Phasey, yeah. Yeah, when I wanna go all out. When I want to sample what I'm doing, I'll put it back on. Alright. Oh, and the screen is showing the wrong screen. Let me switch that really quick. Alright, it is Sunday. It is the Sunday after Thanksgiving weekend, and how's everybody doing? Wait. Hello. Oh, fuck. Hello. Welcome. We're here. Now we're in space. Yeah. Alright, let me turn that off. Okay, so, how's everybody's week been? It has been a week over here. Thanksgiving happened. Did a little thing with a couple of my family members. And, then we had Friendsgiving, at my friend Elliot's here. And that was, Spoonie... And Maddie and Casey and Elliot and we all each made something and brought, like, nothing near, like, what Thanksgiving food normally is. There were no sweet potatoes. There was vegetable soup. There was butter chicken with, like, naan and rice. And then I made a bunch of steamed dumplings. I stayed up really late the night before making, just folding dumplings. I made a whole filling with, like, red cabbage, red onion, red curry paste, and, like, lemon juice and other shit I can't remember, spices, obviously, and then I made half with just that filling, and then half with imitation crab in it. It was good as hell, and I still have a bunch of the dumplings left, because I was just using up a whole thing of wonton skins. I still have a bunch of the filling left, too. Anyway, that happened. Also, what happened on Thanksgiving is PAN Chapter 3. PAN Chapter 3 went up on Etceteraverse. You go to case.dog/ETCV. You can find links to enter into those stories. I'm just introducing more characters. This is my NaNoWriMo for this month was basically writing that series and the rest of that series. I didn't finish it, but did write over 50,000 words, so that's I feel pretty accomplished about that. What else happened? I put out my cover of Smooth by Santana yesterday for patrons. So if you want to go to case.dog/join, you can hop on the $1 tier and download my cover of Smooth. You can hop on the $2 tier, download an instrumental and like album art for it. You can hop on the $4 tier or $8 tier and get mixes. Or you could hop on the $4 tier and get updates on the next cover stuff that I do. All right, so that's all the announcements. I think that's all the announcements. Is there anything else? Am I missing anything? I think that's it. I put up a really early last week. I think on Monday I put up a patron newsletter, just letting people know where efforts are going, what things I want to work on, what things I want to focus on, as we approach the new year. And the main thing is covers. I've been taking suggestions for covers. So if you want to go into my Discord, case.dog/discord, and go in the Case Jackal Tracks thing and just post suggestions, or there's a tweet that I was like, hey, suggest songs at me. If you want to go to that and keep replying, just keep replying. I've been listening to all the stuff that people have been suggesting, and I've already finished recording everything for one that was suggested to me. So that's going to be fun. I'm just going to be doing covers until Jared and I have more to show for this album that we're polishing. So okay, that's everything. All right. How many people did I lose just in the outro? Fuck. Okay. 17 concurrent viewers. Cool. It's only 5 minutes past 2. That's good time. I'm making good time. Look at all these screens. I better be making good time times money. Anyway. Alright. I think I'm sick, but I'm still getting into the spirit. Don't fucking gorge yourself on Thanksgiving food if you're sick, especially, because you will feel like such trash. I felt like such trash. We had these like coffee, brandy, eggnog mixed drinks that Haley made, and they were really fucking good. I had two, and I was like, toward the end of dinner, I was like, feeling good, like boozed up, but then very quickly it just became tired and full and in pain. And I woke up this morning and I'm still tired and full and in pain. So, that's how my time's been going. Okay, where's the screen overlay? There. Oh, no. Where the fuck is the screen? 3. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to focus this stream on music theory because I've been learning a lot of interesting things lately, and kind of just my objective is to talk about stuff and answer a bunch of questions. And if any of you, no matter how much you know about music, I hope that you learn at least one thing. I hope that you can come away from this understanding at least one thing and being able to hear it and point it out when you listen to shit from here on. But this is one of those things that even if you know, or there's some stuff that, like, about chord progressions and scale degrees and stuff that I learned that were things that, like, even if I knew them before, understanding how this stuff all sort of comes together and how it comes from the same thing is really interesting and really helpful to me. Where the hell do I get to... It's been raining for like a week here. We had a leak over the course of the last week that every time it would rain, the exhaust pipe for the furnace would get full of water, and then it would drip down onto a bunch of stuff at the end of the studio. So that caused some damage. The wall's just starting to fucking peel off back there. We're having to deal with that. My dad ended up you know, just kind of moving the chimney a little bit further away. I was down here until like 1 a.m. one night, just kind of changing out buckets to make sure, like, you know, it wouldn't get all over the floor and flood shit. So, rain has been a fucking enemy of mine lately. I've been thinking a lot about the significance of rain. God, your Thanksgiving sounds so bad. Okay, I already read that. Late, but I'm here. Welcome. Good morning, Eli. It is 2 p.m. Welcome, Ren. Alright. So, I have... Is this patch... No, it's not gonna fucking play, is it? Okay. Please. What do you mean, no in? I just saw you working. Hang on, I gotta get... Alright. For some reason, MIDI isn't working. MIDI Studio. Pro 14? Is this the Pro 14? This is the Oxygen. What the fuck? Oh boy. You don't have my full attention. I was looking for a name for my gargoyle Sona. Oh boy. Gargoyles are interesting. Do we have a conception of gargoyles as like creatures beyond just the statues? I'm actually not too sure about the mythology of gargoyles. Like, there's some kind of weird chimera thing, right? Okay, this is bizarre. Alright, let me try this again. Logic has not let me play keys, which is unfortunate when I'm trying to do a fucking music demonstration. MIDI Studio. Okay. New stream project? Okay. Oh, that was loud. Nothing. Why? No in. Please. Gargoyles, insofar as statues go, are supposed to be like creatures posing as statues to protect. Creatures posing as statues to protect holding an important ground from like demons. Welcome, articulately composed. Oh fuck. This is stupid. Okay. Oxygen 25. Can I see you? You are attached. Fresh. Test MIDI setup. This is bullshit. I just had this working. You probably wouldn't be surprised to believe I just had this working before I started stream. Alright, it's just straight up not seeing my not seeing my keyboard? They usually resemble any grotesque or heraldic stuff, so chimeras or ugly lions, dragons. Okay. Okay. There we go. I used to be able to crop out part of the, when I get this into Beats here. Beats and Project. I used to be able to crop out, like, have, like, a little section of the screen where it was, like, just the chord I was playing. Let's see if I can do that again. Screen. Can I do window capture? Logic. Window. Photocut for 10. Okay, how do I fucking crop? How do I do that? Transform. Edit transform. Crop left. There's gotta be just like an option thing where I can just like option crop it, right? Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I wanted. No. Oh, this is going to be a bitch. I can tell. Transform. Edit transform. No. Option. Okay, and then if I do one on the bottom, then I should be able to just do that. Alright. Now. Okay, now I have some croppable. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now I just gotta keep it like that, and then do that, I think. And then, boom. Okay. Yeah. Using the series as a source, there's all sorts. There's a unicorn, a lion, a bird-like one called Griff, and the Scottish clan is fairly different. The Mayan clan has a snake-like one. We fucking around? Yeah, I'm talking about, I want to talk about different kinds of harmony. And where things come from. Alright, finally, we have arrived at where we're supposed to be. And, okay, I've kept my viewers. Good. Okay. Well, welcome, Paul. Alright. So, I'm just using a default piano patch. Or, well, default electric piano patch. And I want to talk about, the different kind of worlds of harmony, how you build them, how you stack them, and, sort of, so I talk about intervals from the harmonic series a lot, but I want to kind of go into intervals in and of themselves and how they build their own harmonic universes, basically. Also, welcome Mars. I don't think I saw you. And Leigh Williams. Did I? Trying to make sure I welcome everybody. All right. So, in Western harmony, I might say, I might refer to Western music as, like, just sort of the way that we understand things now. But I'm mostly going to be talking about, like, tertian harmony. So tertian harmony is when you stack thirds to make chords. And we do this, oh, wait, can I? Oh, this is gonna make it difficult, ain't it? Framing. Okay. Dutch angle, but it's fine. We'll be good. Fuck. Or maybe not. Can't get this in frame. Good enough. You can see all the keys. Okay. So, the way that we normally, like, write and staff things is about stacking thirds, right? So we have one, and then this is a second, because it's do, re, and then do, re, mi, and then do, re, mi, fa. So we like to skip a step. We like to skip one and go to the next one in the sequence, right? And so when we build 7 chords, you're using the odd positions of the scale. 1, 3, 5, and 7. So that's... So when you start with like tertian harmony as like your basis for understanding chords, this is how we name all of them. So this is going to be the language of chords, basically, is what plays these different roles in being the first and the fifth. This relation is always like the default. Like once you have this, you define all of the other stuff like that you add to it. So if I take away that interval, okay, I guess with no 5, it still recognizes it, but no 3. But when you I just like this chord. Okay, so tertian harmony is when you stack thirds and defines these relations in like the name of the chord that you're saying. It defines what role each of them has. The default, if we want to play a C chord, that's just a major, it's with a fifth and a major third. You can think of it as the gaps between notes. It's really the harmonic gaps between, it's really the harmonic relation to the root. And I've gone over, like, the harmonics. Let's see if I can find... I don't have to find it, I just have to pull it up. But give me 1 second to go to this site that I always pull up. case.dog/hs/hs.png. Alright. So, you're going to see this really small in the corner. Oh, and it might be big enough for you to get the gist because the text is very large. But I'm also just going to do that. So, we have... Oh, boy. Oh, boy. This is a map of the harmonic series in terms of how it builds intervals, in terms of how it builds unique intervals over the course of itself. We have the first... There's the relationship between different frequencies. So an octave is one above the other. It's, the same. You add a fifth to it. Or... It's that 1, 2, 3. This is 3 times the frequency of that. And so you can move it down into its own octave, so it maintains this. This is 4, 3, 2. This is that octave. It's a guitar power chord. And then when you get to the next one, you add the 5-4 ratio is this nice interval here. But the 7-4 ratio is weird. And this 7-5 ratio is a tritone, which is bad. But you do have this fifth in here and the root to sort of like balance out what you're hearing. So the new stuff, even though it clashes, just sort of works together in this chord here. So this is what I call the barbershop chord. Octave 3 is the barbershop chord. So yeah. What's interesting about this is even though this is the root, and this is why I'm gonna try to break from like Western music conventions. I'm sort of stressing the point that no matter what I talk about, I'm gonna be using like Western music conventions to talk about it because that's the language that we have. But I want to establish this point that the way that we measure things is not arbitrary, but some of the decisions that we make to like where we put 0, where we put 1 along a cycle, along a spectrum, is arbitrary. And here's how I'm going to make that point. So 4, 5, 6, 7. What does resolving it mean? So resolving is when you have tones that have weird interval matching. Yeah, weird intervals with them. So like, let me go back to this. Yeah, so you can hear F sharp 7. What the fuck do you mean F sharp 7? Print perception is a C4 and D4 are very close frequencies, so much more dissonance, whereas a C6 and D6 the same ratio of a wider frequency gap. Let's use in harmony for jazz. We'll get there. So resolving is when you take intervals that have weird tension, like a tritone, and then move them toward intervals that have more resolution. So if you have this 7 here, the whole point of this 7 is it's the tense interval. Like you can see down in this chart here. Everything so far sounds great. You can drone on this all day long. You have this, and like you just have this empty, powerful thing, and you can add, you know, this little comforting interval to it as long as you keep it between, you know, the first and the fifth. You can live in 4, 5, 6 land fucking forever, right? If you go to church and they do like free singing and they get, you know, like, you know, music swollen and stuff, you're gonna hear them hit this a lot. This is the sound of the universe counting to 5, and it sounds really good. It can count to 6 and use the same thing. But once you get to 7, you have that tension, and it wants to go somewhere. But if you're into jazz, you can just kind of live with that tension, and you can build on it. Like, you got your life, you got the things you like, you have the things you suffer through, but you're like, all right, I got tools to deal with it. I got people to help me with it, and I got, you know, like, a way to figure shit out. And so, like, there's different, you know, I'm already getting abstract with this. We're gonna get there. So, yeah. So the point I was gonna make about this chord, this is called the dominant chord. And you can say it's dominant because it is literally the first chord of, like, the harmonic series that appears at all. Like, you have a power chord and then you have a jazz chord. You can argue this is the first chord that appears. It's the first diatonic chord that appears. But honestly, before you even get to having a scale, you'll learn this jazzy shit. Ha. So there's this is based off root, right? Like, if we're starting from one thing, like, this is the root chord. This is the first chord that appears off root. We learn major thirds off of the root in the harmonic series, the same way we learn the fifth off the harmonic series. We learn the 7 off the root in the harmonic series, but in Western music, this chord, the dominant chord, is called the 5 chord. Why? If it's the very first chord that nature gives you, why the fuck is it the 5 chord? Because it sounds incomplete. It sounds like it needs to pull up somewhere. And so if we play a C7, it wants to resolve up to its 1. I can't fucking play an F chord, apparently. And then this becomes 1. Right? So, because of the intrinsic motion that we don't like, in the first chord that the harmonic series gives us, we decide that it's not the main chord. We've instead decided that a fourth up is the home chord. And what's interesting about the harmonic series is you will find there is no fucking fourth. You get an octave. Okay, you get a fifth. You get a power chord. You get jazz. And then you get this scale here. Do, re, mi, fa, fi, rather. Which is weird. You do not get this perfect fourth. The only way that you can imply a perfect fourth is if you take this dimension down here. So they take Dorians as a scale. What? There's too many typos for me to discern that, but so we have in this one we have this gap between the fifth, or the first and the fifth, and then we have this gap back to the octave. And this, if you can understand, this is a fourth. But you never get a fourth from root. You always have to be able to, you need to be able to understand like the perspective of like looking backwards. Once you look backwards through this series, this is where you get the undertone series. So whereas this is the overtone series, all these notes I've just played so far, you can find all these notes, all these notes I just played so far, you can find by taking a guitar and having one string ring out. And without touching any of the frets, you can simply, like, just vaguely touch the string and pull out different notes from it. There's our octave. And then that's our power chord. There's our other octave. Well, it's out of tune, but you get the point. They're more pure when you do it off one string. Okay. So there's our major chord. So these are evident. These build on each other. These existed long before we were around. These have nothing to do with what we call them. They simply are. There's nothing musical or the only thing that is superior about them is the fact that they are intrinsic. Like, no matter if you hear a full tone, you are hearing that full, where is it? I'll play it off E. You're hearing that whenever you hear on a guitar string. There's all of those other tones in there. You just have to pull them out. So that's what music is. But when you look backwards and you get used to that, like, oh, okay, so to understand, this other interval here, this other dominant interval, you need to look backwards from root, right? That introduces you to something called the undertones. Now, this is literally the overtone series backwards. So, whereas you get a perfect fifth, you get the inverse of that. If you flip these intervals upside down, you get that. All right, and then if you move up to this octave and look down, in terms of note gaps, you get. Okay, you get that one. Wait. And then 4. And then 6. Yeah. So this is the overtone chord for this octave, and then this is the undertone chord for that octave. Have you ever been to fucking church? These are the magic chords. These are the infinite spiral of tension and release that a lot of religious droning works with because they are intrinsic. All right. So, as we've seen, if you just take one frequency, you can pull all these other fucking tones out of it, and there's different ways that we've labeled these things and ways that we've fit them into our conception of things. So, no. Yeah. That's the scale here. If you want to play it with undertones, it's... No. Which is weird. We decided to split the difference and come up with... Because we like to keep things simple. Equal temperament is just taking one of these gaps and then making it like a universal thing that we measure all these things across. So now we understand chords and chord movement. Wants to move up, or wants to move down rather, to where they can be resolved. Okay. So now, let's get into time, and these changes over time. So you can look at chords as these ways you can stack thirds. Now, there's ways that you can stack other intervals, and when you do that, you end up with different kind of harmonic systems. Now, this is rigid, so I'm going to characterize each interval in a way that is sort of, well, rigid and not super practical, because the way that we build harmony is usually across a few different... we have a category of, like, an interval, right? And we can have major or minor thirds that we stack. Same thing with fourths. We could have them stacked in perfects or augmented fourths. Same thing with fifths, if we get into that. But I'm going to be going with stacking, an interval, a harmonic interval that you get from the harmonic series, stacking it in perfect replicas of itself. There's a few different scales that use these. If we were to start with the 3/4, and stack things with major thirds, we have the C augmented chord. And what's interesting about the C augmented chord is that the other fifth interval in it, this is a sharp fifth, it is also a flat 6. And the flat 6 happens to be the undertone interval of the major third. So you get this interval by measuring 5/4, but you would get this interval by measuring 5/8. This is 5/8, this is 5/4. If you stack a major third, you get that thing that just sort of defines itself. Like, okay, here's our yin and yang. And anywhere, and so if you have any of these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of these possible, and they're arranged in half steps. And so if you move up, it also wraps through an octave, right? So it's neat that way. So that's starting with major thirds, and that's just kind of to show that if you stack things with major and minor thirds, and plus a fourth, like that's how you get normal, the way that we look at tertian harmony. So we're already cheating the way that we label these things. But we can get at what's underneath the way that we cheat these things. And that is with the next interval that I want to stack, which is the perfect fifth. This is called quintal harmony. It might sound like a weird science documentary. It might sound like a... Like, I don't know. I don't know what this sounds like to you. But it's a very interesting series, and it is called The Circle of Fifths. If you stack perfect fifths, they have an interesting way that they cycle around the scale. They do it in a way where they hit every semitone in the scale, but return to itself. So, C, G, D, A, and then you could keep going up from A to E to B, and you can keep going. You can keep going. Oh yeah, quartal and quintal. To me, it always sounds like shimmering, like a cabinet full of gemstones. That's a really easy. That's a really interesting way to look at it, because it is sort of the crystalline structure of where we define like current equal temperament. It is very shiny. I feel like perfect fifths, like it's really open. This now an interesting thing happens when you go backwards. You know, like the undertones, as you get the quartal series. No. Yeah, you get this bit, which I'm pretty sure that's an opening chord in like a fucking Smash Bros fight, like Challenger approaching or some shit, like Target Practice or something. I forget. But anyway, what it also is, what quartal harmony also is, incidentally, is what happens when you just take a guitar and go up the open strings because they're tuned up fourths. Until you get to B, which is not. So, you know, that can sound like just cacophonous and just like default if you're not used to writing with quartal harmony. But these systems do some very interesting things. Let's talk about the intervals that they give you from root if you were to like navigate your scales with them. Whoa. Come on. Please. Please work with me, camera. Please. Oh. Oh boy. Good enough. Okay, so now, you may notice that the first three notes when you stack with quintal harmony give you a sus2. The first three notes when you stack with quartal give you a sus2. And they give you a sus2 built off of the 7 of the scale. So you can move this one up, and then move, yeah, if you move both of these up an octave, you're getting a sus2 off of the minor 7 of the scale. If anyone wants to know stuff about tuning and temperament and whatnot, check early music sources on YouTube. Yeah, pretonal music is really interesting. And it's where some of this theory comes from. When you stack the dominant interval, you get sus2. When you stack the subdominant interval, you get sus4, but off of a different place than you're rooting it. You get a sus4, no, you get a sus2. Wait. Am I doing this right? That's right. Okay. It could be either or. So it can be a sus2 off of your 7, or it can also be a sus4 off of your 4. which I like to think of it as a sus4 off Figure 4. I almost lost that, but... So sus2 is actually, instead of... You can think of, you know... Like, if you think of this as, like, the root chord in the harmonic series, it doesn't really feel like it needs much resolving, because you can just sort of accept it as the character that it is. Sus2s aren't just suspending you from a major chord. Sus2s are implying a world of quintal harmony to you. It is the triad of the quintal harmony chord. And sus4s are really trying to take you to chordal, like chordal harmony place. Right? And the way that we, like, if you think instead of when you have a triad and you have this major sound, that's a different harmonic system you're operating off of. That's a suspended 2, but that's not exactly what you're doing. You're just in the same way that you build tones off of these, like, ascending harmonies and, like, lock them in place. You're doing the same thing. You're finding the note that builds itself off of these extended harmonies and then caging it, putting it in the enclosure. And sometimes, if you need to cage it, you need to adjust everything. And bring it down to earth. And so these are different sort of dimensionality on how you look at building harmony off of roots. And you can already hear there's a progression in there. And that's instead of changing roots and chords and, you know, doing your diatonic bullshit. That's thinking of music by just alternating between the 4, 5, and 3 dimension, basically. Or basically the 3 series back and forth and then the 5 series. The rest of this is going to be sort of zoomed in on how to stack these things. There's other intervals that you can stack. The minor sixth actually gives you the same one as the major third, but just more spread out. And then you can stack the 6th step up. That's a tritone. You can stack that into itself, and it just makes another octave because it's splitting the octave in half. So that one's not too interesting. It just gives you a weird, unpleasant web of this going on. If you stack a minor third, you get a diminished 7 chord. This one also raps. And also, no matter, like, where you play a root, like, all you have to do is change which root you're operating off of. And you have a different diminished chord, and I like that. Anyway, we're going to focus on chordal and quintal. Yeah, okay. These series give you a few interesting intervals, and a lot of people already know this about chord degrees. But, you know, when you build any 3 notes off of the chords in a scale, you know, these are all sort of implied. And the way that we imply these, or why we imply these chords based off of a scale, is because we're taking the approximations of the tones that we already know are there when you hit, like a really low note. Like, what harmonics are already there? Well, we know there's the fifth, and we know there's the major chord. And so, your mind's going to already kind of assume these things, and so when we build notes up, we give every note its fifth within the scale, within the grid, within what we allow, and we give it its third that we allow. So here's a minor chord, major, or minor. You get me. So when we move through these different kinds of chords on the major scale, we create different kinds of tension and resolution, and we want to resolve those, and we do that by there's an inherent motion to some chords, like that dominant chord, that 7, or with that dominant 7, it's a 5 chord. There's inherent, there's inherent tension to some of these chords that wants to move somewhere else. And there is a sequence. It's not just like an arbitrary, like, oh, this feels tense and this feels like home. There's a sequence to this. There is an order of proximity to root. And this is really interesting, because you can see this wheel here. If I were to... If I were to play up quartal harmony, or quintal harmony, C, G, D, A. I don't know what's up with my voice, but we have this interesting, sus2 6 chord. But what's interesting about this is that we have up here a major sixth, which is something that's not really available from root in the harmonic series. So that's interesting. The first way we get to a major sixth, we only have minor sixes. We only have flat sixes. The first way that we can get to a major sixth from the harmonic series is by exploring the 3 series. 1, 3, 9, 27 in harmonic series. 1 times 3 is 3, times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. And then when we get to 81, 81 is just really close to, where is it? Where's 80? Oh, fuck, I don't have that far. But 81 is around 40. And 40 is an octave of 20, which is an octave of 10, which is an octave of 5, which is the major third. So when we have these intervals, we have this major sixth, and then it steps back around to major third. So we have that going on. And then we get a 7. Then we get our major 7. So from the quartal series, we have... If we were to put all of these notes that we have, just before we start going into sharps and flats, right? Before we start going into sharps and flats, and complicate things with that, look at just the intervals that we get from root in the quintal series. We have a 5th. That's a 5th. We have a 5th. That's a given. We have a 9th. And a 9th is that sus2. So we have here. We have this. Now we have a major 6th. And we have a major 3rd too. And then a major 7. And that's almost the entire major scale, including the intervals that the harmonic series doesn't fucking give you. You get this major 7, it's part of the 3 series later. You don't get that minor 6 though, right? And it gives you that major, or it doesn't. You don't get that major 6th from the harmonic series the easy way. One way that you can look at it is 7 to 12. I also believe 3 to 5, I believe, is a sixth, is a major sixth. And then 7 to 12, I also believe, is a major sixth. So there are ways to get it from these intervals, but they're not intuitive. Not as intuitive as 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Or 1 times 3 times 3 times 3. They're not as intuitive as 1 times 3 times 3 times 3. So, this interval is pretty fucking hard to get to. And then, you round it out by getting one of the major intervals that the harmonic series does give you. So, just the fact that the quintal series gives you that 6, it has now defined the harmonic major key. And since it gives you the 7 too, it gives you everything in the harmonic major key, but, see if you remember this theme, it doesn't give you the 4th. To get to the 4th, you either need to chase all of these harmonies around. Let's start lower. Even lower. Alright, and then it's a major third. And then B, and then and you just have to keep fucking chasing them all the way around until you eventually get back at let's see, which is our root. So you have to chase it around all of the other semitones to get to the 4 right before root, right? That means that that's just an interesting quirk. The 4 is like it's like the dot in the yin yang. It's in terms of going up fifths and in terms of like harmonics counting upward, 4, it only shows up after you've exhausted all the other shit. Everything is to approach the 4th. As far as you're working with harmonic overtones, you will never get to a perfect 4th in the overtone series from root. You will never find one. The closer you can get, like, the whole point of all of this shit is because you will never find a perfect 4th. That's the only thing this is trying to do, is approximate a perfect 4th, because it's missing. But it is literally, if you turn around and look backwards, it is literally the first dominant interval that you're given. Or the second dominant interval that you're given. You just have to be able to look at things from a different perspective. And if you look at this, these are those same notes, right? As chordal harmony, if you go backwards. So you can get that 4 just from following, you can go up all of those ways that you have to go up, but then, damn if it isn't engaging. Thank you, Marcus. So there's 2 perfect harmonies, the 5th and the 4th, and because of the nature of this, they flank C, they flank root. So you have the power chord, and then you have the inverted power chord. Right? So now, if you build up, and you're going to see a similar pattern emerge here. If you build up from chordal harmony, you get that other subdominant, that other, you can just feel that. These are both very strong intervals. They're solid. They are the most perfect. They are the most perfect besides just a note being itself. These 2 harmonies are the most perfect. And they register to us like that. They're just very solid. So you stack that against itself, and you get this thing from the fucking harmonic series. You get this thing. You get that. Right? but you can get it without the 3 and the 5 being there. You get that minor 7 interval. You keep going, you get a minor 3rd. Letting this exist as words. I don't get it, but I love listening to people be passionate about things. See, I want you to think about this stuff. I want you to think about like just the ways that music breaks itself apart, because it's all very simple. And I'm going to get to the real kicker here. We've already discovered that so the fifths are what give us equal temperament because they step through all of the 12 notes before they get back to root. All the way around. And we've learned that if you stack perfect fifths, the notes that you get initially before you get to fourths is the entirety of the major scale except the fourth. Or before you get to sharps and flats, you get the entirety of the major scale except for the fourth. So if you go backwards across this and stack up fourths, you have that that 7 interval, that 1 below root. Just like quintal harmony give us that 1 above root. This gives you that 1 below. So it gives you that counterpart. After you have the suspended interval, you have this step interval, right? And it's a step up into the octave. Whereas this is a step up from the octave. So we have that different counterpart. And then we introduce a minor 3rd from root, which makes us a minor chord. From there, we get a minor 6th. Now, when we stacked stuff in quintal harmony and we got to the 6th, a 5th up was a major 3rd. So we had both the major 6th and the major 3rd there ready for us. When we stack up in quintal, when we stack up in quartal and we get to the minor 3rd, we stack up another 4th and get to the minor 6. So 3 and 6 from the quintal harmony, the first time we get a 3 and 6 from quintal harmony, it is the major 6 and 3. The first time we get either of these intervals from the quartal harmony, it's the minor variants of both of those intervals. So the first thing you get, 5 in quintal, and then 4 in quartal. You get an extra 2 in quintal, and then you get an extra 7 in quartal. Then you get 1, 5, 2, 6 major, 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, all major, and then 7, all major. And then in quartal you get 1, 4, 7, and then you get a minor 3, minor 6. And then the next one above that is minor 2nd. So you get pretty much close to the minor scale from, you get all of the minor intervals from quartal harmony, from moving up fourths, but you get all of the major intervals from moving up fifths. Now, when you're moving up fourths, it's already fucking wild, and so you don't really, things can get more and more complex as you go. You're already diving into the sharps and flats right away. Moving up quintal harmony, there's a point before you get to the tritone. The tritone is the first thing where you have to root something off a sharp or a flat, right? And to hammer home the proximity to root thing that these intervals have, in terms of the harmonic series, these power intervals are the closest thing you have to root. Even though they're in the middle of the scale, this is the closest tonal shit that you have to root, right? It just fits in with it. And then the next, like, you know, extension of that you have into root are the thirds. Then you have the seconds and sevenths. The mediants, the dominants and subdominants, and then 7 and so we have these, and you can see that every time you move up a key in the circle of fifths, you add another sharp or flat. You add one, because these are the similarities in tones from root, right? Now I said we were going to get into time. There is a chord change. It is the 2, the minor 2, the major 5, with or dominant, depending on how you want to do it, and then 1. Now, when I played the When I played the chordal thing, there's these 3 intervals that you get right away. And you have 5 and 9. 9 is 2. Same note. So, you have this relation that you move down, and you can do 6. You know, there is a motion that is happening here toward root. This is a gesture of proximity to root. The key to all harmonic motion is that dominant 2, that 5 to 1 resolve. Right? So we got and that's solid. That is like every, you know, you get this is the closest proximal thing to root. 4 is also there. But you see, with 4, you flip the script. So let's stick with just explaining this with 5, because, you know, you don't need to think backwards for it. So we have 5, 1. And then, usually to end chord progressions, you go 2, 5, 2, 5, 1. And there's just this sort of, you've heard this a million times before. I know you've heard that a million times before. And literally all that comes from is, see this CGD up here in this circle here? This is the D. This is the G. There's the C. No. There's our 2, 5, 1. This isn't just notes in a scale. This is chord motion. It is defined by this circle of fifths. There's 12 fifths to get back to root. The way that we quantize it. There's 12 fifths to get back to root. And when you venture up, this is the adventure through, you know, harmonic series. These are the nodes you touch as you arrive through, like, different parts of the harmonic series. If you want to go home, which is tonic, if you want to go home, the quickest path home, the most, you know, comfortable and familiar path home is following the circle of fifths down toward home. And you could extend this 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. We're doing a song. Here's the 4, 5. So we're gonna wander between dimensions for a bit. 4, 5. Wait. So I'm just moving around some chords. And say we want to escape this sequence. We could go to 3, 6, 2, 5. Now, what you have just heard, I did not write any of that. I did not have to write any of that. There is none of that that I came up with. That was just purely me playing with the different degrees that come from the circle of fifths. Right? And then we go that 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now, you may be thinking, if you heard that, like, oh, that's interesting, that's just how music works. What you may not be connecting totally is that, this is circle 0. This is square 1. This is no one has to iterate anything. No one needs to have opinions about anything to do with this for this to be true. This is not subjective. This is literally objective harmony giving you its own tools to write with itself. And it's 3, 6, 2. And it's 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now, remember how I said how it's weird that we make this the 5 chord, even though it's the first chord you get from the harmonic series? This is why. This circle here is why. I've played like Sonic Geometry shit before. I see that video still up. But, you know, it's the same principle. Like I like to talk about music, and you can think like, oh, this is just all like the self-contained thing that is music. No. This is math. This is actually how numbers work. What you are listening to is your evolutionary, we write down numbers and we look at numbers as if it's like a dimension below us, but no, this is actually how we experience numbers in our visible, audible existence spectrum. Let me find some fucking tones here. Sapphire. Jeez. That was loud.
And here's a squares and circles 360 in cycles per second.
Welcome, Red.
Octave up from the triangle. What about the pentagon at 540?
This is dope. Oh man.
That sounds like a harmonic fifth of the other two. That's interesting. What are these tones? They are F sharp and its perfect harmonic fifth of C sharp.
I'm out of tune, but hey.
Let's keep going. What does a hexagon 720 sound like?
Because he's just going off numbers. I'm going off of, like, temperament.
Another F sharp. And finally...
So if you could see that down in this little corner screen down here, basically the point of that is this isn't just music. This is all numbers. This is how numbers interact. You see these numbers in the center here? Before you even hear a wave, hear a note, have an opinion about how it sounds, doesn't matter. This is already in stone. This is already fucking locked. The way this pattern of numbers, like, this is a visual representation of this shape. I understand that. But this is where music comes from. It is not describing music. Music is one of those things that comes from somewhere. It is from a self-evident place. And, like, the way that we move through chords, the way that we move through scales is self-evident from, in our case, the circle of fifths. And just, you know, once we lock ourselves up in this... Three, 6, 2, 5, 1. Literally. And, you know, what happens after that? What if we go to 7? 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. We just like that. We just like hearing that. It's just, and it lands. It lands home. And it sounds like landing home. You don't have to like that. You don't have to think it's interesting. But you cannot turn off the thing in your monkey brain that tells you that sounds like landing home. One, 5, 9, or 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7. 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then, so that would mean that moving up fourths, going up the fourth series, would probably be really interesting and, like, buildy, right? And it's pretty wild. But going backwards also sounds really cool. This is down circle of fourths. So let's start. Right? That's a totally different place, ain't it? Right? Like, it's a different way to resolve to root. It's a totally different feel. So do you see that there's an emotional spectrum between, like, the directions of overtones and undertones and harmonies? And literally, the way that we move through music is affected by this circle. The circle of fifths. Whenever you hear a chord that's like in, you know, like a sus2 or a sus4, just real prominent, don't think of it as suspension. Think of it as your temporary glimpse into fucking birdland and dogland. Yeah. And it's just insane. It's insane the way that we look at. And the thing about these rules is if you make music, you do not have to follow these exact, like, you know, you don't have to write every chord progression to be, you know, 6, 3, 7, to do, you know, or, you know, you don't have to write every chord progression like that, but it's worth knowing that when you approach root, that is the grid that people's minds have in their expectations, right? You're approaching from one of those angles. You could approach from a different place. You can totally approach from 3 if you want. But when you approach from 3, don't tell me that you can't take that same approach and give it a... It'll still fit. And let's say if you wanna, just do some chords. And you see what we do there is we go to that 2, and then we go back to a 4, right? And we use that to step up to a 5. And so you can think about it without that 4. Or you could. And you see that second one is merely an archetype of the first one, or is merely an alteration of the first one. 1, 2, 5, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1. Or let's go 1. Let's see. See, that's really interesting, because I wouldn't have thought of that chord progression as being like as archetypal as it is, but I guess it is. You've heard songs that end like that. I know you've heard songs that end like that. End of the Sonic Heroes theme. But that's the thing. There's all of these tools that are not really even tools. They're simply evident. Well, they're tools that are given to you by nature. And I like that. I like that about the harmonic series. I like that about music. I like that no matter how much you explore, it's a frontier that there is no way to know if we've truly explored all of it. We know that there is an enclosure. We have our limits for it. We know, like, and our limits are an octave. That's a given. It all depends on how we slice up things and move between tones within this octave. It is it is a frontier of understanding, right? It's in Time Warp from Rocky Horror. That's totally Time Warp. That's Time Warp. Yeah, let's do the Time Warp again. Yeah, you got that. You caught that. None of this makes any sense to me because I don't know shit about me. So you were just saying that. Now I show you something from fucking Quartal Harmony, and you already know a song that you heard it in. So no, now you know that the step down from fucking Time Warp. Now you know that's simply from the Circle of Fifths. That's just going up the circle. That's climbing the Circle of Fifths back to root. You know, cyclical. Time is a flat circle. It would make sense. It would make sense that that's the fucking end of the Time Warp theme. Do they just step up fucking Circle of Fifths through that whole thing? I wonder, because that would be appropriate, since this is a clock. Anyway. Lo-fi jazz chord. Yeah. I mean, that's the majority of what I wanted to go through. It's just the fact that I discovered that the Circle of Fifths, not only is the directionality of the Circle of Fifths determine whether you're in a major or minor key, and we just like sort it the way that we do because we need to cram everything into like space, but the motion down toward root in the Circle of Fifths and the motion up toward root in the Circle of Fifths, whether you're approaching from fourth ways or fifth ways, is what determines chord harmony. And then that's target practice from Smash Bros. No. Yeah. So if you ever hear a lot of like weird, you know, jazz step up stuff, you know, it might come from just running around the fifths and fourths. When you do that, it doesn't quite feel like it's following major and minor keys, because this is the spectrum that contains all major and minor tonality. And it is a spectrum that loops back to itself with the tritone at its center. So the tritone is sort of the fulcrum, the best and worst of both worlds of major and minor tonality, which you get by stepping up fifths or fourths. So, I guess the takeaway here is, you know, when you look at keys and you see, like, you know, this spectrum here, know that this is sort of like music folded in on itself. If you took the whole, like, all of harmony and, like, spread it out, like, you know, you hit the lowest note and then all the harmonics, like, spread up, it's like you're taking each one of those and flipping it where it needs to be. So you take This one doesn't fit up here. It needs to fit between this octaves. So we know that's there. All right, so we reach even up further, higher, and we find that. All right, so we know that's down there, and okay, and then we reach even further up. We know that's there. Okay, so we know that's down there, right? And then we keep going. 9. Okay, that one's there. We go from quintal. We find 9. We find 6. You know, and like, okay, so we got these here. We got all this here. It's going great. We got the major 7, and as we keep going up, building up the harmonics, whether we're doing it through simple like retrospection or looking back, or just straight up looking up from root and being like, all right, so now we have 9, now we have 11, now we have 13, now we have this, now we have 17 and 19 and 21. Like, you know, instead of looking at harmonies building from root like that, they build from these different angles, right? And so all of these things, as we're stacking things, when you look at an octave from a piano, all of these notes in between are actually representations of along a different axis. Shit, all spread out. All spread out. This is the farthest distance that you can have two notes be from each other. Think about that. Sure, tonically, you can find notes that are really fucking far apart, but here, that's the farthest two notes can be from each other and still have a harmonic ratio. You could argue this is also the farthest, even though they're the closest. This is the farthest away that notes can have like harmonic dissonance. That's not true, actually. It's the minor third. The minor third is the 19th harmonic. You get all of the other notes if you measure things from root, like, you know, in this way. But 19 is your major third. That's not true, because you also need 27. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is that music is dimensional in ways that you cannot see. This is a folded up recursive, you know, map of different tones and how they relate to each other. And the way that we name them is just based off of our third. We like to think in thirds. But if you go up 2 octaves and then start stacking what comes after you get to quintal harmony, you get a major 7/13 chord. Right? And then same thing with fourths. You get a weird 7/11 chord. That sounds more major to me, honestly. Not when I put the fourth there, though. Anyway. So this has been a clusterfuck. I hope that I've introduced you to some concepts that you can link together in your brain about music from here on. Basically, anyone who goes to music school learns this in some way, shape, or form, but there's a little bit of things that I don't think are drilled home enough as being the same thing, right? The circle of fifths is chord progression. It contains it. It is those patterns in the ways that we see them. We expect and we need flow along these patterns for, you know, resolution and tonal dissonance. This is where, like, you know, tonal like chordal dissonance comes from. These are, like, music is something. Music is something regardless of what we think about it or how we call it or how we measure it. And I just wanted to show that, like, because of so many different ways that we experience and label things differently, we lose sight of what music is. And it's just a few simple mathematical relationships. It's a mathematical shape, right? Never frame borrowed chords as going down the circle of fifths in opposite direction. Yeah, like, it sounds like borrowed chords. You don't think of it like that. Like, I feel like there's so much to, like, more complex music theory that's actually a lot simpler if you look at it from the view of, like, well, where does it come from? If you look at things in terms of stacking quartal and quintal harmony, the world of music changes entirely. Because you realize, like, fucking thirds are just lying to you. You know? Oh, fucking whoop. Yeah, fucking we can count to 5. Oh, yeah, that interval must be really goddamn important. No. No. It's the 5th. It's the 3rd. And now you get to stop using the circle of fifths because we've left the common practice. No, the circle of fifths is eternal. I'm gonna put on a cover that I did while I go take a break really quick. I've been streaming for an hour and a half. I'm gonna refill my tea and take a break really quick. So I covered Smooth by Santana. I kept the album art the same. It looks like this. If you're a patron, you can go and download this.
Man, it's a hot one, like 7 inches from the midday sun. I hear you whisper in your words, melt everyone. That's to stay so cool. My muñequita, my Spanish Harlem Mona Lisa. Oh, you're my reason for reason. The step in my groove. And if you say this life ain't good enough, I would give my world to lift you up. I could change my life to better suit your mood. Cause you're so smooth. And well, it's just like the ocean under the moon. It's the same as the emotion that I get from you, yeah. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it. I tell you one thing, if you would leave it be a crying shame. In every breath and every word, I hear your name calling me out. From the burial, you hear my rhythm from your radio. You feel the turning of the world, so soft and slow, turning you round and round. And if you said this life ain't good enough, I would give my world to lift you up. I could change my life to better suit your mood. Cause you're so smooth. And well, it's just like the ocean under the moon. It's the same as the emotion that I get from you, yeah. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it. And it's just like the ocean under the moon. It's the same as the emotion that I get from you, yeah. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it. Or else forget about it. Or else forget about it. Give me your heart, make it real.
Alright, I'm back. Half tempted to add the time warp as a suggestion to cover it. I'm not really, I'm not really about musicals, or like show tunes, honestly. So I can't say that would rise to the top of the pool I'm working with, but Another Way to Die by Disturbed. Interesting. Wrong Side of Heaven by Five Finger Death Punch. Those could be interesting. Keep dissociating out of reality. That's some good shit. Well, I'm sorry, but thank you. Half tempted to add the time warp as a suggestion. Oh wait, I read that. T-Rake. It's hard to hear, made a fucking noise. Thought I was gonna blow up. Anyway. So, yeah, that's just been me fucking with all this. I don't really have much more to talk about. I just kind of wanted to blab for a bit about the Circle of Fifths. I can talk a little bit about how I have practically used some of this. That would be... No? Yeah. I can talk about how I practically used some of this before. One little, like, riff piano line that is from a while ago that... Let me actually pull up an actual piano. Not an actual piano, but, you know, samples of an actual piano rather than an actual electric piano, you know, just to clarify, because I'm clearly playing a cheap M-Audio multi-controller. Keys. There we go. So in a song of mine called Turnaround, it's actually A, isn't it? Oh man, am I not going to be able to play it on this? Okay, I'll just do it that way. That's it. 3, 4. 3, 4. I wish. I kind of want to set up that 88 key again. It's been so long. It's been so long since I've just had a full, like, range piano thing to just go nuts on. Last time I did that, I wrote another 724 song. Last time I had one, like, there at my disposal. I gotta fucking play Sleep a bunch. I don't have the range to do it on here. But with Turnaround... If I could play this right. 3, 4... Can't. 9. This song plays with chordal and quintal harmony. 4. So when you're lowest, a common way to invert stuff on guitar especially is to have your lowest interval be the 5th. Because the 5th, no matter, it has it's the simplest, so it has the lowest limit is widest. You can play a 5th basically anywhere, and it will sound like a 5th. If you play a 3rd down here, though, do you hear how there's a lot of this upper going on? It's angry. But with the 5, it's just, you know, that hits, and it stays. You know? So lower limits tend to be a good way to build chords on guitar, so you get used to hearing that. So all of our chords in this are inverted in such a way where the fifth is the lowest. They're spread out. They're voiced, rather, so that the fifth is the lowest interval. Except for the last one. And instead, it has its fourth. So this ends up being a 5 chord, which goes back to the 1. Remember I was talking about 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. And to get there, we actually utilize this interval here, which is the 2. So here's our first chord in the low hand, and then so this is 3-7. Then 2-6. No. And then 2-5. Wow. I'm really bad at playing this, like, splitting this apart. Basically, the first chord of it is that quintal sus2. So it's 1-5-2. Went back down. That's also valid. So, we have this quintal chord, which moves up. But instead of doing a quintal, like you would expect, an E sus2, instead we augment that top thing, like the equivalent to sharping a flat, and that takes us into the land of minor. So we poke our head up through into minor. So we start with a 1 chord, a 1 quintal chord, or a 1 sus2. Call it 1 quintal or 1 sus2. Then we move up into the 3, where we've already established like this as being, like, when you hear that, then you hear it move to, you're expecting it to go to, because you're all right, okay, we're in quintal, but no, this merely serves as a transitionary chord, or a transitionary, it's implying that, but it never plays it. It merely goes to the E minor. So now this is actually our 3 chord. Shut up, Duolingo. Anyway. But they're stretched out. When we go back down to the 5 chord, we voice it by giving it the bass of the second of the scale, and then building up an octave, but doing that inverted power chord. So now we have a contained fifth that's upside down. And if you notice that the way we access these is by starting with the 2, and then hitting the 5, and then hitting the 1. Or no, well, hitting 2, and then 5, and then 2 again. And then it brings us back down to 1. So, this riff is built off quintal harmony and is built off fifths and resolving fifths. The one time that there is a third in the chord, it sounds like it shouldn't be there. Which... 2. You take one of those fucking sips or it travels down the wrong pipe and then you're just fucked for like the next hour. You're like, oh yeah, clear my throat, sound dignified. And every once in a while, a little bit comes back. Alright, so what I was basically talking about is that you can use quartal harmony as a way to make do with much simpler intervals. Let the motion do the harmonic work for you. So, I'm sort of seeing harmony in a different light right now. Like, I've been, experimenting with things for a while, but there's stuff that's clicking that's just making it feel so much more, intuitive, I guess. I've been hammered all of these concepts separately for years, through piano lessons, for, just learning different things. But arriving at it from the place of like, oh, so here is what is. Like, it's easier for me to understand something when you can operate from a root truth. And music is the only thing in the universe that has a root truth. And so, like, it makes it so everything that I've been finding out is, I can relate it to that root truth. And I can find out where it fits, in perspective along time, along tonal scales, like the way that these numbers relate to each other is so, there's a story here. Language doesn't do it, right? Like music is creative writing with a very, very limited vocabulary, is how I see it. And just like language, the context of these things change over time, as you put things in sequence. There's these symbols and there's ways that they fit together. And, when you write a story, all you're trying to do is, like, evoke emotions and create an experience in a situation. Like, you want to play the audience, right? You want to get these emotions out of them. The thing about music is that it is made of what our emotions are made of, which is, harmonic intervals between waves. The bare relations between, this number and that number, and this thing and this thing. And all simple whole number ratios This is 2 to 3. This is 5 to 4. You know, this is 5 to 6. 5 to 7. You know, like there's, and you know, these different, all of these notes come from like relatively simple ways to get to them. It's linguistic symbols. It's like a few linguistic symbols, but instead of conveying, like, you need to put meaning on top of it. Whereas you need to construct words to try to evoke some of the meaning that was put into it, or some of the emotion that it should evoke when you understand what it means. You know, you do that through context. You do that through setting up, you know, a whole different kind of context. You know, things that lead up, things that foreshadow, things that hint at things, tensions, resolutions, climaxes, rising and falling action, twists. You know, like if music has twists, that's the thing. So if I were to do, you can move through stuff in expected patterns, and then once you break from those expected patterns, you create a totally different, you create a twist, right? Like, the point that I'm trying to get at is that all kind of art forms and the things that you try to evoke over the different dimensionality of whatever you want to communicate, it can all be summed up and analogized with the way that music works. That makes sense. I really like the comparison of music and writing as being both forms of storytelling. It is absolutely storytelling. You cannot have music without time. You cannot have a story without a progression of events. You can stay on this chord forever. You can go to church. You can stay on this chord forever. You could. There's nothing stopping you. You can have things happen in that chord. But it's not interesting. There's no fucking story there. There's no song there unless you... There's no story there unless you move it. And when you move it, you know, all the things that were there, you know, in the beginning, your 1, 3, 5, 7, your, you know, Father, Son, Holy Spirit bullshit, you know, whatever molecules you're up, your red, blue, and green quarks, you know, the things that make up this whole thing, your protons, neutrons, and electrons, you know, you get me. The thing is, you need to change one of these things. You need to make it unstable. And then it has to go somewhere. But then once you go somewhere, you need to figure out, well, fuck, so we're somewhere. Now how do we get home? You can step around. And there's easy ways that you could go back home, but you don't want to fucking do that. You don't want to do the cliche. And you might slip it in because, you know, stories need to have endings. You need to have resolution. But you could fuck with it for as long as you want before you get there. And it's all about that. Music is a story that repeats itself. Music is a story that's made of emotion. Music is a story that you need to put words to. And that's what I like about it. Writing is just music zoomed in. Like, you can't... So when you write down music, right? You can't... You can put notes on a page and you can have things about, like, you know, the ways that these things are played. There's always a bit of, like, you know, there's performance, there's feel to things. Like, that all matters. But also, the root harmonies of something can't exist unless they are being performed. Either by, you know, a pre-recorded thing of a synthesizer doing it. You need to have something that is putting in the effort to turn in the idea of music into music so it can be experienced. It exists. It has to exist with us along our same temporal period for any given like amount of time for it to appear to us. Music is an apparition. Music is a song is not a character in a world that is built, you know, within the confines of your mind. A song is a ghost that lives alongside you, right? It can only exist as that. You need to experience it. It has to rattle some fucking airwaves in your physical space for you to comprehend and experience music. You can read a book on your own time. You can stop mid-sentence and come back mid-sentence and, you know, finish up that experience. And you can have whatever experience you want to have. You can't do that with a song. You can't listen to half of a 3-minute song and then come back later and listen to the other half of the 3-minute song. You can't fucking do that. It's not going to be... You're not going to get the full picture, right? If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a donus? No, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one around to hear it, there isn't a tree. There isn't a forest. That's actually how that works, but... this is an extreme form of if a tree falls in the forest. Oh man, like... I'm trying to figure out why it seems that way, because it's really not. Like, it's the opposite of that. Music exists no matter what, right? But in order for us to experience music, we're experiencing a selection of movement along these pre-prescribed, you know, intrinsic to nature patterns that we're sort of reading from. Get this. Now here's another kicker. We're reading from it like DNA reads from its introns. Music, this circle of fifths, motion along it, all this fucking, you know, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, all that shit moving around here. Music is when we pick from this strand of DNA, of musical DNA, and make the proteins, the 3 notes at a time, into chords. Right? Music is when music can only exist, you know, in that, like, in that sequence, right? It totally is like DNA. Oh my god, I love it. Yeah, no, this is... it's the same shit. In fact, it's so very much the same shit. But look at these 4. Look at the first 4 letters. Look at the first 4 letters of this. Do you see this? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you seeing what I'm seeing here? CGDA. Now, CGDA. Okay. These are the first few letters of the circle of fifths. Now, the interesting thing about D is it is actually not just its own sound. It is an allophone, in fact, of another unvoiced sound, which is T. Now, do these letters look familiar to you? That doesn't mean anything. That means absolutely nothing. That's just a coincidence. It's the fucking 4 nucleotides of DNA. I bring that up because I talk about this a lot, but long before I could read, I knew the 4 base pairs of DNA, and I knew that they worked like binary. And I used to know the names of like every fucking bone in the human body when I was like 4. But DNA is fucking like I am a strand of DNA. I'm very aware of this. Wants to barge in with this fucking Homestuck. Oh yeah, it's all coming together now. I'm just making some coincidences. Like, you go off the deep end and then you find 1 or 2 things that are just like, oh, in fact. But yeah, music is DNA. Music is specifically, if you are an enzyme, if you write music and you are an enzyme within the strand of harmony that is music, and you're pulling whatever codons from it to make whatever proteins, whatever you need to copy out, right? And then that strand is your song. And if people take that song, they have to build proteins to it, take instruments and put effort into building a cell or whatever structure based on that script that was copied and sent out. That script is if you write down music, or if you have it in a piano roll, and all of the enzymes and all of the proteins that are putting themselves back together, that's your DAW. That's when you're recording things. That's when you're, listen. We're music. The thing about music is that it is true at root, no matter how many dimensions you're working with. Beyond even, we could fuck with aliens. They would understand music. Aliens would understand music, and they would all have fucking 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. I fucked up all those chords. What about 433? 433 is art. Look. And I love learning about the ways DNA works. It's so interesting and exciting to compare music to that and realize how similar those things are. Everything's the fucking same. Everything's the same. Everything is the same. And the harmonic series is more root of that the sameness than like pretty much anything. It's numbers. It's whole numbers. All Star by Smash Mouth? Yeah, we've heard it. Absolutely. No, I am positive that, if they are any more advanced than us, they had a version of Smash Mouth and they wrote a version of All Star fucking thousands, hundreds of thousands of years before we did. If they're technical enough to figure out space flight and get here, they've been there and done that with All Star. We're gonna find out that electromagnetic energy and toroidal field generators or whatever the fuck operates via the harmonic series, and some fucking aliens are gonna show up in their weird UFO, and it's gonna be blasting Rick Astley, and we're not gonna know why. But that's how they fly, right? No, it'll be blasting "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. I demanded music as my DNA t-shirt. That would be really cool. That would be really fucking cool. That would be really cool if I did it. Okay, so if we had, there's a way you could do that with, having a diagram of, the base pairs and just having the fucking T scribbled out and write D next to it. What's interesting is that, the D, thymine, I'm writing in all caps right now. Thymine is actually the replacement thing. Uracil was actually the original component to A. So there was AU and then C and G. Oh fuck. We have found that Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons, may be composed of uracil. Oh boy. I love when we find DNA molecules on other planets. Let's look at the fucking Kuiper Belt. Hang on. This is how this shit is. This is how is. Show me the resonant orbits. The Oort cloud. No, show me that graphic. The fucking resonance. Yeah, here. Kuiper Belt. So, Neptune rules the 7 seas. Or some seas. Neptune is the 8th planet, right? 8th planet from the sun. So, you know, we got fucking, if the sun is here, 1, 2, 3, no, sun would be, fuck. It's the 8th planet from the sun. You know, once you get to 8, you wrap, right? You get to 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? See what I'm getting at here? These are the planets. Anyway, no, look, these are the planets. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Alright, so Neptune has its own sea, right? This sea is called the Kuiper Belt. And, in fact, the biggest objects in the Kuiper Belt have orbits with resonant harmonic ratios. Look at these fucking ratios here. To the orbit of Neptune. Resonant orbits. Alright, so 3 to 4. 3 to 4, I think that's Charon? Or something. That's the perfect fourth. This is a 3 to 4. 2 to 3? Pluto's orbit is a 2 to 3 with Neptune. That's that. 3 to 5. That would be... That'd be that 6. Major 6th. And then there's another that's 4 to 7, which is that. And then you get octave. And then one that's 2 to 5, which is... So the Kuiper Belt... Neptune, way the fuck out there, is actually spinning planets in, No. That. You know, it's got something going on there. Hello, Cosmo Comic. So, we got so far into music theory that we got to how root it is to reality, and, now I'm literally just showing off that, that. God. This is just Corona. Yeah. Yeah, we've ascended that far. That's why Crozide is Jovian Whistler. It's literally where like Jekyll and Hyde was Chakra Monster, right? Like if you believe in the like I'm a mind in control of my meat machine and I'm a fucking donut in the grid and I'm the same thing that is the you know, like, you know, if you go off the deep end and explore all of the fucking like self-help new age like versions of like how to look at yourself, then you go off the deep end with it. Right? That was what Jacqueline and I was about. Crozide is you look at all of the things that are similar and like that all come together in sort of the same way across different cultures. You compare it to like the analogousness of the harmonic series, then you step into, okay, where does the harmonic series appear? And then you're like, oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Oh dear lord. And then you go off the deep end. There's always a point where you can keep going, right? Just, you can keep fucking going up those fifths. But after you hit the fucking one with the tritone, you're in a totally different goddamn universe, and it does not sync up well with root. You gotta step your way all the way back down to root. A lot of the stuff in Crozide makes a lot more sense now, actually, having looked at this. Thank you. I intend to be putting out supplemental materials for all of the lyrics on those 2 EPs until the day I die. which will be 100 years from now. I'm not going to die. I'm going to be a fucking mind in the cloud. We're all going to be goddamn immortal. Here's the thing. If humanity survives, we're going to be immortal. Like, we will be in our lifetime. We will be able to go on the cloud. If and when we die, our mind will be uploaded to the fucking internet. And we'll just be able to play in, like, virtual land forever. And, you know, maybe we won't have rights by then. But you know, like, so be it. We're gonna be fucking, like, here's the thing. Ensure, go to Team Trees. Ensure the perpetuation of humanity. Come on, go to Team Trees. Don't give me any fucking, I mean, I would appreciate it if you gave me some money, but I've been given some money to, let's plant some fucking trees. Right? Ensure the perpetuation of humanity, please. Go to teamtrees.org, donate some fucking money, try to help them plant 20 million trees. Anyway, that's the thing about all this, right? Oh dear Lord, 20 seconds before writing music. You guys in the Minecraft server in the sky? Yeah, basically. I gotta go, I'll be back in case. I might not be doing this for too much longer. I've been streaming for about 2 hours. I'm just bitching. I'm just fucking around right now. Music theory stream. We'll be immortal. Maybe we won't have rights by then. Yeah. No, what I'm saying about all this though is like, you know, we'll be immortal. Soon enough. It's just like there's so much about Earth that and just the place that we're in that's so very much the same and so very much not as complex as we think it is. And I just don't think that we go into that a lot. But there's always like a limit whenever you get into anything, just like the circle of fifths. You know, you keep stacking stuff and eventually you just go off the deep end. You get into a whole thing and eventually you can find your way to step your way back down toward root and make it seem sane. But you wouldn't be able to do any of that if it weren't for the intrinsic nature of the harmonic series and the way that music puts itself together in the first place. The circle of fifths is sort of like the main inspiration I had for Crozide. Like a lot of the stuff, I kind of want to make like a lore playlist of like a lot of the stuff that like inspired the more specific stuff I say, because it's all exploring like weird off the wall shit. But you know, I'm probably gonna be putting out supplemental material for that until the day that humanity dissolves. That's how you know my fucking mind operates in a tangent, because I can all the way around and 251. I would kill for any Etc. Reverse lore. There is a hefty amount of Etc. Reverse lore just within, like, sort of buried within the Jacqueline Iden Crozide lyrics in and of itself. I think if you do a lot of, like, if you do some cross-referencing between, like, lyric sheets and What's Up and Pan so far, especially, I think there's a lot that's spelled out. This stream is lore. I mean, that's sort of the thing about Etc. Reverse, is that I want a lot of its lore to be not self-contained. Like, there are things that that you don't need to know, but like there's supplemental things that you could have heard in the ether that aren't necessarily true, but are out there. And I've thrown it to the dogs in such a way. So, yeah, you could say this stream is lore. There's probably going to be a lot of things that I talk about in Etc. Reverse that come back to concepts that I, you know, probably haven't spoken publicly until the stream. So, fuck yeah, this is lore. All of it's lore. You can look up fucking Like, we're gonna be finding new goddamn Sumerian tablets with like the Anunnaki legends on them, and I'm gonna be fucking posting shit like, hey, this is lore. Say the stream's gone to the birds. Anything that goes to music goes to the birds. They own music. Astral Plane exclusive content when? As if I have... No. You don't understand. You don't understand. Just how much of, what Etc.verse is, intangible, but solid, and there. And, like, the thing is, when I'm talking about supplemental material, there is sort of a truth that it cannot really be put into words that is sort of like the pattern that all of this kind of goes around, and you need a lot of context to set it up. Which is why I like to use music, and I also like to use stories, so you can approach it from both fucking angles. But the fact is, how the fuck do I say this? Yes, there is a place in consciousness where the Etc.verse exists, and it is accessible regardless of anything that I have to say about it. Like music, it's there, regardless of any fucking opinions I have about it. That's sort of the way I see it. What Etc.verse lore I understand is pretty incredible, and I want to understand. I don't think there's any easy way to explain it. Fucking, I don't know. It's, you know, the kingdom of heaven. You know, the idea of, you know, there's intangible places where you can expect things. Just like music is a pattern, the way that I label the Etc.verse and how I present it, isn't... It... Like, you know, I played something before and I was like, I didn't have to come up with this. This is self-evident. Is that. I think there's like a key, and all of this stuff I'm going to be putting out, all of the Etc.verse stories is really just sort of revolving around a key, and then once the key clicks, you realize that like the universe it's describing is your own, and that's also sort of part of the fucking storyline. I don't know. I'm walking I'm walking through like 8 different goddamn axes of freedom with the way that these stories work. I could talk about this forever and never make sense and never spoil anything because it's clusterfuck. That's what happens when you base your universe off of the ways that harmonies interact. And that's why I do these streams, because I want my writing to be better understood too. I gotta run now, but I hope this stream will be watchable later. Yeah, I'll be putting it up. Not trying to sound too, I was also trying to go out and share their story, music theory stream. I haven't even been talking about that long. I've been talking about music theory until I got to the end of, like, you know, all that I knew to say about this, and then I just started going off of, like, and this is why this is important. But yeah, no, I mean, like, all the stuff that I write is inspired by all of this stuff. Like, when I say lore, it's like, you know, there's things that inspire me. There's things that I consider and lean into. But it all stems from this bullshit. Music theory literally is Etc.verse lore. Yeah, that's about it. You zoom into any one of these and you figure out, like, how do they all play. It's also, like, there's part music theory, there's also E8. I could talk about E8. This isn't... I really don't want to talk about E8. Because there's nothing harmonic about that. That's just a fucking mess. I would have to start talking about neurons and shit. It ain't about that. So modes. Basically all scales, all music that we understand is a mode of like the harmonic series. And so, you know, the first chord that we get is you know, we make it 5. I guess because you start talking about E8 and we get dangerously close to Time Cube. Nobody wants Time Cube. No. I love that. Oh fuck. Like, no, Time Cube was one of my fucking inspirations. Like for like there were a bunch of different ideas I had for like how to present like PAR and like how to start the series, and one of them was gonna be like, what if I just took the site and wrote really shitty, like sloppy HTML like about the universe, like sort of how I Love Bees was. But no, I love Time Cube and shit like that. The thing I love about different people's conceptions of how reality is actually put together is because like the reason I love that is you can throw it to the dogs, right? You can say, oh, in my fictional universe, all that's true. Now we continue. Like, you know, and then you go from there. I love that shit. I like that, you know, obviously, you know, when you go down these rabbit holes, you need to understand that these people are operating off of a different set of truths than society has ever even fucking considered, and you don't know what biases or what experiences they've had that have given them the blind spots that they have, that this is the... But everybody comes up with this weird, super, like, they all... When you crack through, you know, like, the whatever veil of hallucina, whatever, when you crack through it, the cracks that fall away show you this like weird geometrical spinning fucking thing, and everyone who's cracked in any kind of way has this same, like, they go far enough, they go off the deep end deep enough, and they come back with this weird set of like shapes and like 4-dimensional like time cube, hypercube, like that shit's fascinating to me. As a neuroscience major, talk about neurons. I'll say one thing about neurons. They can form up to 8 connections at once, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They can form up to 8 connections at once, which means that they have, they can be represented with an 8-dimensional simplicity, right? You want to know what the purest, most compact, most, like, finely well-connected 8-dimensional simplicity is? It's the 8. Anyway. Time Cube. I'm not... Okay, so there's a site that's like Time Cube. Dan Winter is like, if Time Cube was coherent, if there was a coherent voice that was speaking Time Cube, not necessarily coherent in web design, but if there was a coherent voice that was speaking Time Cube to you, this guy Dan Winter, again, very far out of the realm of reality, you know, in terms of how we view things. This guy was an IBM scientist who worked on chips, and as you may know, when you make chips small enough, the quantum world actually causes electrons to leap across where they're supposed to be, because the wave function is too wide for the tiny machines that we want to build. So, guy who works on that leaves IBM and starts looking at brains, and finds out, oh my god, they're doing the same thing. So he's got this crazy fucking site. He's got this insane site. This isn't music theory. He talks a lot about the harmonic series. He talks a lot about phi. I'll connect this. I'll come back to root. Don't worry. We're gonna go through some sharps and flats. But I will give you your 251. Yeah, Mandelbrot sets. Fuck. Golden ratio. Oh yeah, here. You know, it starts looking at Sumerian tablets. Compression, rarefaction. There's one really interesting thing here, and it's simply to do with the angles that make up the molecular bonds of DNA. And this is the one thing that I like about this site. Oh god, these are all PDFs. Oh, Christ. Oh, what was that? Okay. So it's gonna be probably a bunch of examples of phi spirals. This isn't music theory. I need to leave now. Okay. Please just show me the fucking oh, yeah. Yeah, hexagons. Come on. Fractality and architecture. The neurons. Holographic universe. Come on. Who the fuck? Oh, that's Buckminster Fuller. It's a buckyball. Fractals. Just show me the DNA shit. Okay, yeah, I know what the golden ratio is. We get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hoo boy. Hoo boy, you're right about that. Yep. Okay. Yep. We've all heard all this. 2 fractals. Just show me the dodecahedron. Show it to me. Ah, yes. Platonic solids, the dodecahedron. Geometry of atomic nucleus. I have a fucking poster in my room that has this thing on it. Kymatics. I talk about this shit a lot. This is all we are. We are like a solid form of a like 3 feeds of like coming at us from different angles are just making a shape, and we're that shape. This is all we are. Okay, I think we're getting there. I think we're getting to the point of all this. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. The dodecahedral fractal. It didn't show what I wanted to look for. That was a waste of time. Dan Winter. Here he is. Yeah, this is actually, oh god damn it. This has the diagram I was looking for. If you look at this little faint thing here, you can see some of it here. The actual angles of the molecular bonds that make up DNA, it's all sort of translucent here. They wrap in a spiral around, you know, there's a helix. And you can see if you take like basically a D12 and then you turn it so like the top peaks line up with the bottom peaks on the D12, and you keep doing that, you can draw a line up around the curve regularly. It'll be, you know, polygonal, but you can draw a line up around that curve that follows that curve, and you will get the turn of DNA. So you can have 2 strands that run along, you know, just the geometry of a dodecahedron, like this angle here, gives you the angles of DNA, or the angle of the spin of the twist of DNA. And that's because it's molecular, and molecules form with hard angles. They're shapes. Molecules are just shapes, right? They're just 2D shapes that all, like, you know, flack into each other in different ways. So when they form around this thing, this ratcheted dodecahedron, they stack up in like regular prescribed, you know, intervals of stacking, right? And eventually they make it all the way around, after these like things have rotated. So when you think about music on a piano, like I was saying, like how all of this sort of wraps around. When you think about music on a piano, what you're seeing is the circle of fifths wrap itself around in such a way. And what you're seeing isn't, what you're hearing basically is this circle, right? Like, wait. What you're hearing basically is like this circle, right? Like from the top down, like you're hearing this. But what you see are each of these like little dodecahedrons stacked next to Dan Winter's face here. Each of these stacked is the notes of like a scale. So we always cycle back around to here. Yeah. Physics of fire in the blood. So this is the guy that does the whole like heart of the sun thing, you know. Meaning of DNA. He's pretty crazy. Cannabis growth increase. Yeah, he sells you he sells some weird things. So it's again, you know, you go down these rabbit holes, you gotta make sure to keep put on your armor of God, you know. Be able to consider things without considering everything true. That's about all I got. I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. And we've veered off so far into unreality. Oh, there was a song cover I was working on. So one of the suggestions that I got. Let's I can't monetize this shit anyway. Let's pull open some of the projects I was working on before, just so I can show off. Just so I can show some things off before I go. And if you guys are patrons, or if you know, are thinking about becoming patrons, this can give you a little taste of what's in store. So, when I first started asking for suggestions, Jan gave me a cover suggestion. Fuck. It's putting delay on me. Please turn off. There we go. Okay, so Jan gave me a cover suggestion and pointed out this song by the 1975 sounded like something I would do. So I was like, yeah, let's see what I can do with this.
Danny ran into some complications. He falls asleep during conversations. He's gotta search the street when he's on vacation. The worst thing is that I'm in the same situation. And all I do is sit and think about you. If I knew what you do, collapse my veins wearing beautiful shoes. It's not living if it's not with you. In a simulation.
So just take the vocal track.
But he works at a petrol station, selling petrol. He says it all began with this operation. And I know you think you're sly, but you need some imagination. And it's true that all I do is sit and think about you. If I knew what you do, collapse my veins wearing beautiful shoes. It's It's not living if it's not with you. All I do is sit and drink without you. If I choose, then I lose. Distract my brain from the terrible news. It's not living if it's not with you.
I still gotta do some work on this. This is actually an older version too.
I can't stop sweating or control my feet. Got a 20-stone monkey that I just can't beat. I can stage a situation, but I just can't eat. And there's a feeling you're replacing embrace. It's true that all I do is sit and think about you. If I knew what you do, collapse my veins wearing beautiful shoes. It's not living if it's not with you. All I do is sit and drink without you. If I choose, then I lose. Distract my brain from the terrible news. It's not living if it's not with you. I try to get a job at a bank, I think. Then he spent the time trying to stuck in the drink.
Right. I actually did, I've done a little bit of updating on this. I actually infused that. I cleaned up the mix and infused that with a few patches from Smoke Damage.
In the same situation. All I do is sit and think about you. If I knew what you do, collapse my veins wearing beautiful shoes. It's not living if it's not with you.
So I don't know if you heard that. There's some Smoke Damage in there. There's this next one that I haven't gotten done enough to put like a demo up yet, but it's gonna be the next one I put a demo up for. This one was suggested by, God, I think it was my friend Error. I think it might have been somebody else. It might have been somebody in the chat. I'm gonna have to look. It's Sweet Tooth by Scott something. And this is really rough. I just recorded some guitar for this. It's loading now. I just recorded some guitar for this, and then just bullshitted some. Oh wait, that was yours, Aether. Okay, well, here it is. Here's what I got done so far. I'm gonna be working more on this.
You know I gotta have it. Took all of the blue ones, feeling hotter than a glue gun. I said, let's go, go, go. I hold hands with cosmic entities. I'll take this to bout if I please. I got this to it, baby. I exploit my opportunities. Some broken hearts, no cavities. I got this sweet tooth, baby. I got this sweet tooth, baby.
Wow, and where did they go?
Cosmic entities, I'll take this to bout if I please. I got this sweet tooth, baby. I got this sweet tooth, baby. I exploit my opportunities. Some broken hearts, no cavities. I got this sweet tooth, baby. I got this sweet tooth, baby. When will they realize? Got the crazy eyes. Never had an invite. Kick me out, I don't mind. Helicopter by the stop sign, pretending that it's a strobe light. Kick me out, I'm not phased. I'm on another plane. I hold hands with cosmic entities. I'll take this to bout if I please.
I gotta arrange this. I basically have enough recorded, but I gotta mess with stuff more. I have been a little bit incapacitated, like playing anything serious for music, because I still have this blood blister and I'm trying to let it heal. But yeah, that's the next thing I got going. There's more covers that I want to get to. There's a lot of things that I have, like, you know, half done that are sitting around that I want to get back into. There's a cover of Irresistible by Fall Out Boy that I started a while ago, and I now know I want, there's someone that I want to duet it with, and that's going to be fun. So until I have more Green Blues content, and until you know, the Etceteraverse picks up to being something with more production values than it has currently, I'm gonna be doing some covers. I'm gonna be posting some behind the scenes stuff for those covers, sort of sporadically on YouTube. Not sporadically, like sporadically in terms of when you hear them. If you're a patron, you'll hear them first. If you come to these streams, you'll hear them. But I'll have I'll be putting up, you know, videos to publish for YouTube soon with these covers. And so I'm going to be doing this probably into spring. I'm just going to go through a list of a bunch of stuff. And then patrons will be getting basically a cover album that I'm doing in the interim that I'm trying to make sure I get at least 8 tracks on before I put it out. And I already have a bunch of fucking covers that from a while ago that I can half finish and that are half finished that I can polish and put out. So look forward to that. Also look forward to instrumental and bonus album editions of Crozide and Jacqueline, which will be coming soon. And also look out for on the archivist tier, I am adding a fuck ton of demos for Jacqueline and Crozide to, you know, the demos section of the archive. If you want to go and hear the evolution of some tracks, those will be uploading tonight. So that's allcase.dog/join. So I was suspecting you want to make a cover album. Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while, but that's this is the opportunity, you know. This is the time to do that. But thank you so much for coming. Oh, another little piece of news, and what's relevant to what I'm about to go do. Fucking Haley got me an Instant Pot for my birthday, like as an early birthday present. So I'm about to go, like, I have this slow cooker, like, chicken mole recipe. I'm just about to go make that in my Instant Pot. See how fast it does it. But thank you so much for coming. I won't be here next Sunday because I'm going to be at a convention. I may not be here Wednesday because there's a friend that's going to be in town, and I'm going to be leaving for a convention the next day. So I might not be able to get to Homestuck stream on Wednesday. So we'll see how that shakes out. Cooking with Case. Yeah. I'm gonna go give you a Instant Pot recipe, which consists of put all the stuff in the pot, close the lid, press button. Oh boy, yeah, that's easy. But I will be back before the new year. I will be back before Christmas, and I hope that you guys have a good start of December without me. I will have, if you want to keep up with me, I'm in the Discord. I'm hanging out in the VIP lounge a bit more than I usually do if you're a VIP. And I will have all of these demos and work in progresses up as I have something to show on them for patrons. So yeah, if you want to keep up with me, I'll be in the Discord. I'll be posting on Patreon. I just won't be streaming for a couple weeks. So have a good week. Have a good December. We're in the final stretch of the year. Good luck out there. Keep climbing. And remember, everything in the world is a permutation of the harmonic series. See you around. Have a good night.